Hello everyone and welcome back guys to a brand new video where today we're here talking about F1 2020s. Now over the last couple of months I've been trying to think of different ways I'd like to sort of expand this channel ever so slightly, diversify and everything like that. And coming into 2020 I want to make a few more videos talking about real life Formula 1. Now obviously this channel over the last couple of years has very much been dedicated to the Formula 1 games, but like I said, I've always wanted to talk a little bit more about real life Formula 1, have some discussions with obviously you guys, the subscribers and the viewers and everything like that. And so I've decided, as we jump into 2020, I'm aiming roughly once a week to try and bring a bit of a different style of video talking about the real life Formula 1 and everything like that. Hopefully it can be a way that obviously we can all discuss Formula 1 together, obviously down in the comments below and everything like that, obviously over the course of the new season. Now that will vary in some different ways. Obviously some weeks we will just be talking about real life Formula 1 news, other weeks we will be discussing just sort of random off-topic things I've got, and then obviously sometimes it'll be real life Grand Prix and everything like that. So hopefully it's, something a little bit different on the channel. Obviously there are some brilliant real life Formula 1 content creators out there, things like F1 Word and everything like that have sort of inspired me to try and take this bit of direction on the channel as well. But obviously with this being the first week of 2020, I decided, today I would make my top 10 2020s bold prediction. Now this isn't just F1 2020, this is throughout the next decade of Formula 1. Now I'm very doubtful that obviously in 10 years time we'll look back on this video and see if I got any of these right. But 10 years, it gives us a nice opportunity to sort of expect some more varied things in the real world of Formula 1. Obviously as we over the recent years where we haven't seen many rule changes and everything like that, it's made it a bit easier to predict what's going to go on. You might be able to make a couple of wild guesses here and there, and sometimes that pays off. But most of the time, for the most part, as much as I hate to admit it, Formula 1 has been quite predictable and quite stagnant over the last few years. And although I'm not one of these people that sort of believes, everything's going to be wildly different suddenly, I do definitely hope that the F1 2021 regulations do certainly help out with that. Like I said though at the start, this is going to be some bold predictions. Obviously your opinions might vary from mine with this video. That doesn't mean that I am wrong, it doesn't mean that you are wrong. This is obviously meant to be hopefully a fairly sensible discussion based series where people don't rip each other's faces off, but this is YouTube, so we will wait and see as to how this all pans out. But yeah, today then, like I said, we've got 10 bold predictions from the real world of Formula 1. And I'm just going to jump straight into it with my first one. And this one isn't such a bold prediction per se, but certainly one that at the moment with the way Formula 1 is, you really just couldn't guarantee it. And that is that Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc are both going to win Formula 1 world titles within the next 10 years. Now, to be honest, if Formula 1 with the way it's going at the moment, I could have said the next 5 years, but I do believe at least one of those two will win a world title by 2025. To be honest, at the moment, I'm more inclined to say Charles Leclerc, just with the rate of progress he's made over the last 12 months, obviously after joining Ferrari. But Ferrari are not an easy team to place money on. I mean, when you look back, if someone had made this sort of video 10 years ago, Ferrari had dominated most of the 2000s. I don't think they would have predicted that Ferrari would have gone championshipless over the course of the 2010s. But yeah, personally, I believe both Max Verstappen driving for Red Bull and Charles Leclerc driving for Ferrari will pick up world titles. Now, I don't believe that'll be 2020. Obviously, I'm not going to go too much into predicted every year because that's just a bit ridiculous at the moment. But I definitely do think that both of these guys, there's no doubt about it. I don't think anyone's going to say otherwise, that they've both got the potential to win world titles. Obviously, Max Verstappen, he's always, pretty much since the day he walked into Formula 1, has always been, that kid that is going to win a world title at some point. And it's actually crazy to think now this is going to be, his 6th season in Formula 1. Obviously, starting all the way back in 2015. It is worrying to think about in that context as well. But yeah, bold prediction number 1, though. Verstappen and Charles Leclerc are going to win Formula 1 world titles. Whether that'll happen still when Lewis Hamilton is on the track, we will have to wait and see. But yeah, that is going to be my first bold prediction then for 2020s. Moving on though into number 2, and this one sort of relates to Charles Leclerc and Ferrari. I do believe Mick Schumacher will drive a Ferrari Formula 1 car in a Grand Prix. Now, whether that ends up just being sort of a one-time thing, maybe, just a couple of races here or there, or whether it is just for a full season, I do personally believe we are going to see a Schumacher in a Ferrari once again in the 2020s. Now, 2019 Formula 2, it hasn't been the best season in the world for Mick Schumacher. He hasn't quite set the world alight, but we saw this in Formula 3 a few years ago as well, obviously with the infamous Dan Ticktum incident, obviously the comments about that. And personally, I do think we're going to see a much, much quicker Schumacher in 2020. And, well, hopefully we do anyway, because then I could definitely see him getting in towards Formula 1 over the next couple of years. Now, definitely, like I said, I think Mick Schumacher is going to make a charge in 2020 towards that F2 title. Whether he'll get it or not, I think is a very different question. We'll obviously have to wait and see about that, but obviously this isn't F2 bold predictions, this is F1 bold predictions today. But yeah, bold prediction though, number 2, Mick Schumacher, personally, I believe, is going to drive a Ferrari Formula 1 car in a Formula 1 Grand Prix as well. Yep, I believe we are going to see the MSC back in red in Formula 1 on the timing delta. Now, in towards number 3 then, a fairly similar one to number 1, but I'm going to predict Ferrari, Mercedes and Red Bull all to win at least a Drivers' World Championship and a Constructors' World Championship in the 2020s. Now, Mercedes, that could very easily come next year in 2020, and that could be one of my 3 ticked off the list pretty much instantly here. But I personally think we're going to see Ferrari. We are going to see them back on top. Obviously, like I've already said, Charles Leclerc and I think Max Verstappen are going to be those Drivers' World Champions for them. I really have no idea. They could very easily be the driver lineups they've got now. I could see if Ferrari get the new regs right. Ferrari, Charles Leclerc and Sebastian Vettel picking up the double for them if everything all runs smoothly. And then, yeah, I could definitely see Max Verstappen and whether it be Albon, whether it be Gasly, whether it be Kvyat, honestly, Red Bull's just in that weird position at the moment. This is probably going to be a video I'm going to make in the pre-season as well, talking about the Red Bull conundrum. But yeah, personally, I think we're going to see Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull all win the double world championships in the 2020s. Both drivers and constructors championships in the sport once again. Moving on, though, to number 4. Is going to be McLaren are going to start winning races again. Now, this one is sort of a bold prediction, sort of not. It's obviously a little bit odd when you think about it. I mean, well, what? McLaren haven't won a race now in 8 years. Obviously, 2012 was the last time they won a Grand Prix. So, I mean, they've won a few races in the 2010s. But I mean, when you consider the fact that 2012, they probably had the quickest car towards the end of that season and then have not won a single race ever since, it might be a little bit more of a bold statement to say. I mean, Williams last won a Grand Prix the same season McLaren did in Formula 1, and I don't think anyone's going to be predicting them to be taking home too many race victories in the next decade, but I will be talking about them in just a moment. And although I don't think we're going to see McLaren win another world title, I feel like we're going to see them in a bit of a position where Red Bull have been over the last couple of years, where they have just got those sort of 4 or 5 Grand Prix a season where they just seem to, obviously, it just suits the car and everything like that, and they can really take the fight to the big 3 teams. Now, obviously, going on about that, I think the big 3 teams we're going to see that gap shrink, but I don't think we're going to see it evaporate fully. But I definitely think McLaren are going to be the team to close up that gap. And yeah, prediction number 4, McLaren are going to be winning Grand Prix. Now, I'm not going to put a specific number. I think, over the course of the decade, it might be 10, 15, maybe 20, if I'm feeling optimistic. And, personally, I would love to see McLaren get back on the top step of the podium. Obviously, seeing that podium that they got, obviously, a couple of weekends back, or I could say a couple of weekends back, a couple of months ago now, back at the Brazilian Grand Prix, their first podium since 2014. It was wonderful to see. Unfortunately, they didn't quite get to celebrate it at Brazil, but, it's still a podium at the end of the day. And yeah, definitely, I think we're going to see McLaren take home some race victories once again in Formula 1. Moving on, though, the halfway stage of this video then. Hamilton, he's going to win 8 world titles and then call it quits in Formula 1. Now, personally, obviously, like I said, I'm probably going to make a F1 2020, the specific year, some predictions about that in the near future as well. But I think Lewis Hamilton, he's going to get those 8 world titles, and then he's going to go, you know what, I think I've had enough with this, and he's going to go on and do all the other weird and wonderful projects he's doing with his life. And, you know, he's going to go out as, well, I mean, a lot of people, debatably, who you want to call the greatest of all time, but I think he's definitely, I mean, already, in my personal opinion, if he left Formula 1 today, he would definitely be in with a good fight of being the greatest of all time. But yeah, personally, Hamilton, I think he's going to win his 8th world title. Personally as well, I think that's going to be with Mercedes, and obviously we've seen these discussions recently about Hamilton to Ferrari and everything like that. And although my opinion does change on it here and there, I don't think we're going to see Hamilton to Ferrari. I think he's going to be a Mercedes until he leaves the sport now, in all honesty, at this point. But yeah, bold prediction number 5, or not so bold, depending on your opinion of it. Hamilton, yeah, 8 world titles by the time he leaves the sport. Whenever that is. I think it's probably going to be sort of early to mid-2020s. I don't think we're going to see him, you know, right towards the end of the 2020s. But yeah, Hamilton, 8 world titles is going to be on the board before he's done in Formula 1. Now, next up then, I've already briefly mentioned them in this video, but I think this one is either going to work really well for me or really, really bite me back. And that is going to be Williams are going to finish top 4 in a season once again. Now, obviously, the last few years, it's been just disappointing, obviously, is the only way to describe the way Williams have just completely fallen in a Formula 1 once again. But we did see it towards the end of the 2010s, you know, sort of 2010, 2011, they weren't really anywhere. And then we saw a bit of a resurgence of form in, obviously, 2014 and 2015, where they finished 3rd consecutively in both Constructors' World Championships. Now, I was tempted to put 3rd, but I just think, you know, Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes have probably just got that stronghold in Formula 1 at the moment, you know, obviously, where effectively now Red Bull isn't quite a factory team, but may as well obviously be with Honda with that really tight-knit working relationship at the moment. You know, I just don't think we're going to see Williams be able to crack those guys anytime soon. But yeah, I'm predicting maybe it'll be 2021 regulation changes, maybe it'll be a little bit later down the line, but I'm going to say Williams, we are going to see them make a bit of a resurgence. I'm not going to call race victories personally, but I think, yeah, we're going to see them back inside the top 4 in the Constructors' Championship once again. Now, coming in then at number 7, this one, I don't know. It's a bit difficult to make this prediction because it's not really something I want to see, in all honesty. But I'm going to say we're going to see another 2 new teams join Formula 1 over the course of the 2020s, and neither of them make it through to the end. Now, this is going to certainly be quite an interesting one to have a look at. Obviously, if this does end up happening in Formula 1, but I'll really, really be intrigued to know how Liberty Media will help, you know, new teams coming into the sport. Personally, I think, you know, they're going to be sort of more Caterham, Marussia, HRT style teams, everything like that. But yeah, I'm going to predict we're going to see 2 new teams coming into the sport and unfortunately not making it through to the end of the decade, obviously depending on when they join. Coming in though at number 8, we're going to see 24 Grand Prix in a Formula 1 World Championship. Now, I was tempted to say 25, but I just think that's a little bit too optimistic. But personally, yeah, I think we're going to see more back-to-back race weekends. And yeah, we're going to see upwards of 24 Grand Prix in a single season. How the teams will cope with that, we will have to wait and see. I know a lot of people have already said, you know, 21 is really the limit for some of the smaller teams. You can't really push much more than that. But you know, we've seen with Liberty Media over the last couple of years, they're trying to push, you know, a second US Grand Prix and everything like that. This is where I think, you know, they could bump those numbers up a little bit more, you know, if they have sort of 2 US Grand Prix that are back-to-back weekends or something like that. You know, a couple more races in Europe that are fairly close together, you know, European Grand Prix once again and everything like that. I personally think, yeah, we're going to see a Formula 1 World Championship season with 24 Grand Prix. And obviously that means for people like, obviously, you know, top teams, Mercedes and stuff like that, they could be aiming for, you know, we could see someone get close to 500 championship points in a single season, which is obviously more than most people would try and aim for inside a whole Formula 1 career. But yeah, I personally think, yeah, bold prediction number 8, we're going to see the calendar get opened up even more. And yeah, we're going to see 24 Grand Prix in a season. Coming in at number 9 isn't so relevant for most people, but it's certainly, you know, something that a lot of us in the UK would desperately like to see. And number 9, my prediction is F1 is going to go free-to-air once again in the UK. Now, this one, I definitely feel Liberty Media, I'm sure there's probably already discussions, hopefully, fingers crossed, in place to sort of see something at least similar to this, or, you know, F1 just being made cheaper in the UK. I saw a recent analytic that was something crazy, like F1 in the UK has lost 8.6 million viewers since it went to Sky exclusively, and I don't think that's any problem of Sky in particular. You know, it's not really their fault. Personally, I don't think their coverage is as good as Channel 4's on a Grand Prix itself. But obviously, with the amount of stuff they have, you know, all the time on Sky F1, you know, you can't deny, for a lot of people, it is, I wouldn't quite say worth the money, because it is ridiculously expensive. But you don't completely feel robbed, personally. Obviously, if you use all the other stuff you can get on that channel as well. Now, personally, it's not something I do use. I honestly just go Now TV, personally. Obviously, for those of you in the UK, you'll know all what I mean by all this as well. And personally, I just pick up either week passes or day passes, no matter what, you know, what offers are going on at that time. But yeah, personally, you know, we've seen Liberty Media already live stream in places like Twitch for a couple of the Grand Prix this season. I think it was Mexico, where they live streamed across quite a few countries in Europe. And although I don't think we're going to see it potentially just move to sort of Twitch or YouTube or something like that, that would be quite crazy. At the end of the day, it would be a mega deal. But yeah, personally, I don't think we're going to go that way. I definitely think we're going to see, yeah, F1 go back to free-to-air in the UK in the next 10 years. And I do hope it's very, very soon, personally, then. But moving on, though, into my final bold prediction in Formula 1 in the 2020s. I personally believe we're going to see a Formula 1 driver return who is female. Yes, haven't had a female Formula 1 driver, I think, since the 1980s, if I'm not mistaken. And although at the moment I'm not going to make a prediction of who I think that's going to be, you know, obviously we've got some really, really good talent. You know, people like Jamie Chadwick probably is one of the front runners to make it to Formula 1. Obviously, we've seen the success of Formula W and everything like that as well. You know, that can really, really sort of inspire things. And that's why I've said, you know, over the course of the decade, because, you know, it's not going to happen, at least in my personal opinion, you know, sort of in the next couple of years. But towards the end of the next decade, obviously, there hopefully is going to be so much talent coming through, both male and female. Personally, yeah, I think we're going to see a Formula 1 driver, a female Formula 1 driver even, I should say, back in the sport. And obviously, that'll be, personally, I think, really, really good to see. I do hope it's just based on talent rather than sponsor opportunities. I know some people always say about this sort of thing, and it is a bit of a touchy subject, I'll be honest. But personally, yeah, I do think we're going to see a female Formula 1 driver back in F1 once again. But yeah, there we are, though, guys. That has been my top 10 bold predictions for the 2020s in Formula 1. Leave me down in the comments below as well your guys' ideas, what we're going to see in the 2020s. You know, anything you'd like me to discuss in this weekly segment on the channel as well. You know, just sort of a team, a topic, something that's going on in the real world of Formula 1, anything like that. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching this video nonetheless. Do get yourself subscribed if you're new around here as well and you don't want to see more F1 content on the channel, whether that be real life or from the Formula 1 game. But yeah, that'll do us for this video then, and hopefully I will see you guys next time.